How's it going, everyone? We're here and we're checking out Starfield, and I know I'm a little bit late to it, but this game was literally unplayable for me because I didn't really pay attention to the required PC specs. See, I installed it onto my SSHD or hybrid drive instead of my main SSD, and the game just wouldn't run. And one of the requirements for this game is that it's installed on an SSD if you're playing on the PC. Now, if you're on the console, you don't have to worry about that. Your console is your console, so it is what it is. It should be going good. But one way or another, I got that all fixed out. My other SSD was breaking, and I had to get a whole new SSD. But that's enough about me. So, Starfield, I think a few of you guys should know, if you've been with me long enough, that I'm a huge Bethesda fan. I play a lot of Fallout. I still play Fallout 76, but I don't really do videos on it. I used to do base tours, and honestly, I've done a ton of building since then. So if you guys like that kind of stuff or want to see it come back on my channel, leave me a comment, let me know. And maybe I'll get into this game. We'll talk about that more. We can do some videos on that. But, Starfield. So, what do I feel about Starfield? And this is going to be my kind of like honest review. So first things first, I got a free copy. So just so you guys know that, I like to disclose that ahead of time if I'm doing an actual review so that you can take that into consideration. So with that said, I think that the outpost building is in some ways a huge step forward from Fallout 76's building system. And I think that's really great. So the way it actually works is once you've built an outpost, you can press F to open your scanner, and then there's the outpost option, as you can see right here. And then this will bring up a menu of the various things that you can build. You've got your power, storage, builders, structures, crafting. So you can see I've got, one of each of the crafting benches kind of set up here. You've got defenses with turrets. There's various types of robots, and as you can see, we had like a little cleaning robot stuck over there, and so forth. And then there's various furniture for decorations, and I think there's quite a bit of a nice variety. There's also mannequins and displays for your weapons and armor, which is always a very nice thing for people who like to collect things, and various different miscellaneous things like landing pads and so forth for your ship. And that is one of the things that kind of has a huge difference, is building the bigger stuff. With Fallout 76's system and Fallout 4's building system, it was very kind of constrained, and this has a nice upgraded camera from Fallout 76 where you really can get a proper bird's eye view. So if we go ahead and actually pop on outside where our little robot friend here seems to be trying to disappear off to. Alright, he's coming outside. He's gonna clean. As you can see, here we are on a planet. We've got extractors set up. There's a huge landing pad, okay? But we're gonna go ahead and build, and then we're gonna go ahead and hit toggle view, which is V, and now you can see you've got that top-down camera. And this just really gives you a much, much nicer view of what you're doing, which I think is a nice upgrade. But there are a few things, like there's no toggling of snapping. Things either snap or they don't. So there's some things that feel like a little bit backwards, as Fallout 76 has a little more kind of options when it comes to that. And sometimes it feels a little more restrictive in a system that was supposed to be a little bit more updated. But I'm sure that's things they'll iron out in patches, so it's not really kind of a huge deal. So now that we go ahead and pop on out down here, you can see the gravity is a little bit different on this planet. We're up here on a nice ship landing pad, and I don't think this thing has enough power yet because I haven't actually finished this outpost. But you can see there's some pretty big stuff that you can do with the outpost building and so forth. When it comes to the weapon system, I would say there's very cool kind of variation in the amount of weapons that you can mess around with. I mean, there's things from like explosive shotguns, as you can see here, which is pretty cool. Then you've got explosive auto shotgun here. We've got silenced laser rifle, nice little AR. I definitely say the animation effects for the weapons are a huge upgrade from, I would say, like Fallout 76. And also, I would say they feel a little bit more smooth, so does the kind of gameplay and running around. And I would definitely say that's like a plus for sure with the game. They definitely feel like they've put, you know, a bigger effort into that. There's definitely a nice change with the new engine. And of course, there's also big guns. So still like your miniguns and stuff like that from Fallout. It's definitely something that still exists and you can get. I mean, there's a ton of different weapons and so forth to check out. Now, when it comes to the planets, there's certain planets that are there for the story and so forth, and those are the ones that are populated. Everything else is pretty much dead and empty, and it just kind of has random variations. Now, some planets are going to have more life, like actual alien life walking around on them, but that alien life, of course, is restricted to just creatures and so forth. There aren't other humanoid species of aliens so far. Without spoiling anything, I think they may be pointing towards something like that, but one way or another, we're going to try to do this without story spoilers and such. So that's kind of just my gist of like the feel of the planets and so forth, but we'll go ahead and actually take off. And we're going to go ahead and bring up the map. Now, the map is something a lot of people have actually complained about because when you hit escape, it gets bigger and bigger, and it's just a little overwhelming, I think, for a lot of people. But once you kind of get used to it, it's honestly not that bad, and most things are automatic. When it comes to flying places, you pretty much just want to set your target and, you know, fast travel there, so to say, with your ship. If you're going to try to actually fly somewhere, it's going to take hours upon hours, and it's just not functional, really. But, I mean, technically you can do it, but then you still have to open a menu and hit land. You can't literally land on a planet. So, you can scan planets, and as you can see, they are rich in different types of resources. You can use this to figure out where you want to set your outposts and so forth. But yeah, that's just kind of like the gist there. And as you fly around, you can go to different ones and check them out. So what we're going to do here is go to our ship. And, oh, we are too heavy to fast travel. So I forgot about that. So we're going to actually have to go ahead and run there. So we'll bring you back as we get to the ship and kind of just show you the basic ship stuff and go from there. Alright, so as we just got here to the ship, you can see there it is parked, and this is my current ship, and it's nothing special. It's still all of the basic class. There's 3 classes of ship, and this is still all running on the most upgraded kind of basic class stuff. As I'm maybe 20-something hours in the game, I'm not super far. I've actually spent most of my time crafting to level myself up. And basically, you've got your inventory system here, and this is where you're going to take care of all your kind of stuff. And then when you hit escape from there, it will automatically put you into the main other menu here. And this is where you can go to your planet, and you can go to your ship, or you can go to your weapons and stuff again in inventory, or you can go to your class and so forth. And this is where you're going to level up into things. And the way they work basically is as you use them, you'll have the chance to then rank them up and put a skill point into them. So for me to progress this next one, I actually need to get another 6 kills with a ballistic weapon, and then I can use a skill point to upgrade it, which will then give me the perk of 20% more damage. So this is something kind of akin to like your skills and perks and stuff that you would see in maybe Fallout from, you know, for another Bethesda game. And this is kind of how they set it up. But the thing that you want to really pay attention to is some things are very crucially important. Like, for instance, if you go to science, to actually do chemistry things, you're going to need to have it ranked up. And I basically just spent hours working on crafting things and ranking it. And this is all based off of, you know, it goes up exponentially. So maybe you'll start out with needing to do 10, then 25, then craft 50, then craft maybe 100 or something like that. And then that, of course, unlocks your other things. And this goes for weapons with weapon engineering, spacesuit design with spacesuits, chemistry with your chems and healing items. Outpost engineering is obviously going to be your outpost. And then you have special projects, which is like your tier 4 or 5 kind of legendary upgrades and so forth. So it's very something that is a little confusing at first, but once you get into it, you'll realize it's very similar to how Bethesda has a lot of their other systems. And the same thing goes for the ships. Basically, as you work on upgrading things here, like for instance payloads, the more you go around over encumbered with your ship, the higher you can rank it up and carry more items, thus as the result. So that's kind of, you know, a nice thing. Also, starship design is going to be important to you. It's going to unlock different types of modules that you can use in the ships, which become available to you. And the next thing is going to be probably, I would say, piloting, which is how you get to your other types of class of ships. So you can then unlock the B and C classes. And this is based off of destroying other ships, as you can see, basically with combat. So that's kind of how, you know, that system works. And I think after a while, like I said, it becomes very familiar to you if you have played another Bethesda game. So that should be pretty straightforward there. So let's go ahead and jump on into the ship. If you're not encumbered like me, you can fast travel to it, but in my case, I am. And as you see, there was always the option to either board or go straight to your cockpit. We did board just so we can kind of see the inside of the ship. Various different modules you can kind of play around with, and as you travel around, you can find more that you can buy and unlock, or as you progress in the tech tree, you'll unlock more. So as you'll see, this is our cockpit straight ahead.
I'm in the mood for a mocha.
There's one of our followers. It's a perk, the Adoring Fan. You guys should definitely play around with that one. It is funny. And then as you can see, we have some of our crafting benches, like our research station here. This is where you would go and work on your research. As you progress in the tree, you can then submit the actual materials that are needed, and then you basically research it, and you can then craft it from there on. So that's basically kind of your whole research and development right there. And then there's various other crafting benches which you can eventually get into your ship, but I don't seem to have any of those quite yet because I am not far enough. But we're going to go ahead and pop on into the driver's seat. And we're gonna take on off.
And we have... Let's go!
Gotta get some thumbnails, you know? Nice little animation whenever you take off your ship, which is rewarding to those people who sit there and spend all that time building and, you know, painting it and such. Oh, alright. And it looks like we are instantly in a battle. So random stuff can happen whenever you get put back into space. You can also fight in first or third person, but I highly recommend third person because first is tough.
Target's jump system down.
Now you can completely destroy ships like I am right now, or you can actually just take out their jump drives, like you heard her say, jump drives disabled, and you can actually board them as well. Now you'll see that my weapons are also kind of locking on, and that is because I do have auto cannons. Normally you have to aim a lot more, and I was not so great at that.
This is the Freestar Collective vessel. Please respond. That got a little too exciting back there. Most ships would have bugged out and left us with this mess. But you, total class act. Any way we can repay you?
Alright, so random encounters can usually lead to some pretty interesting stuff and some free stuff. You can ask for repair parts or credits, salvage rights, there's all sorts of stuff, or you can just be really nice and say, hey, I don't need any. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, I just need some repair parts
Done.
here.
You take care.
And there we go. So they went ahead and sent us some repair parts. So, as you can see, we're just kind of cruising around as the ship right now.
Next on the agenda?
And if we go ahead and go into first person, you can definitely see it's very fun,
Saving
but
the universe.
definitely easy to lose your bearing. But that's kind of a little bit of ship combat and kind of, you know, your ship working there. So let's go ahead and travel somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and take us to the main first city you go to so we don't do too much of a spoiler or anything like that. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and head there. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and head on over to Jemison and headed to the lodge. So then you can go ahead and hit X for land. It's going to bring you into a loading screen, which, you know, depending on your computer, is going to be one speed or another.
There's
And
nowhere else like it in the
here
galaxy.
we are. So, this is the first kind of city you get to. New Atlantis. And you can see, like, it definitely is a vast kind of, like, area and so forth. But I feel a lot of it does feel still kind of empty. I mean, there's people walking around, and a lot of the most fun I think you'll find in this game, or at least for me, it was the random quests and the side quests, the radiant quests. A lot of that stuff is just really cool. Without spoiling anything, there's like 2 human settlements, basically. Or not even settlements. 2 separate evolutions of humans meet in one quest. A ship was sent out way, way, way back in the past, and they thought that ship didn't make it, but they actually made it to a planet and colonized it. And then later on, the other humans that, you know, were left from where those people were sent from eventually got more advanced spaceships and traveled there themselves, and they both end up thinking each other are aliens, and they can't communicate because their tech has gone in different directions because they've been split groups for so long. And then you go in there and you have to kind of choose which group to side with. And like that, for me, was more of a rewarding kind of like experience than I would say some of the main quest stories have been. And again, that might just be me, but that's just kind of how it's felt. I also don't feel very attached to any of the characters myself, so I do have to say when it comes to the story and feeling pulled in, I really have to give this game a 7 when it comes to that. Or so, maybe even less. I don't know. I'm giving this story much more of a chance. I'm not even, I'd say about a third of the way maybe through. So take that with a grain of salt, guys, please. I could, you know, completely change that after beating the main story and so forth. But one way or another, I feel like the side quests have been a lot more enthralling to me and so forth, and that's been a lot more of a thing. When it comes to the actual environments and the planet, I'm gonna have to give like another 7.5. The main areas like this are great. They're, you know, 8s and above, but everything else is pretty barren and empty. And I mean, that's what you're supposed to expect with all these different planets. You're kind of supposed to go build an outpost and so forth, but it does feel really empty, which is something that's a little bit weird for a Bethesda game because we're so used to their crafted environments that when you go to a lot of that kind of emptiness, it feels a lot of kind of same and a little bit lonely. So that's kind of my feedback on that with that. When it comes to the weapon systems and building for the ships and the outposts and so forth, I definitely feel those are huge pluses. I also like the actual system in, you know, crafting things, selling things, and all that. I think it fits really well with anyone that may enjoy other Bethesda games, and I think that is easily a, you know, 8.5 or bigger on that. Now, down here in the lodge, which is kind of your first like hangout area for your main kind of story quest people, you have all of the crafting benches you may or may not need, and just kind of show how they work. You go in here and it kind of works like modding a, I would say, in the old kind of Fallout way, but instead of rolling for like legendaries, you actually are just picking which one you want to put on it. And you can kind of just pick a mod and then assign a mod to each slot, and those just act as upgrades to the system. So, you know, basically some will look familiar to you. You'll see stuff like ballistic shielding and optimized servos, which come straight out from Fallout. So, you know, a lot of that will kind of feel familiar to people who've played previous Bethesda games, especially the Fallout games. So that is another thing right there. But that pretty much does it for this. So we'll go ahead and do the last thing, which I think is always the funnest, and go ahead and check out some ship modification and kind of how that works. Alright, so we're here with the ship, and we're just going to go ahead and head over to the technician. You can say you want to modify your ship. And then this is where you can go ahead and cycle through your ships. So you can see right here we have the Frontier, which is the first ship they give you, and then we've got the Sparrow. And you can go ahead and inspect it, you can move around, take a look, you know, etc. Or we can go ahead and go into the ship builder. And once you're in the ship builder, this is where you can pretty much just edit everything. And it's as simple as, you know, just click and grab it, move it, and it'll show you the different, you know, connection points. You can just reattach it. Oh, I want to put up here instead. Okay, I can put it up here. You know, and there's just all the different kind of things you can kind of move around with. It takes a lot to kind of get used to it and learn how it works. Then of course you have your add button. This is where you can add all the various different things. And you'll also have to pay attention. As you can see, some of these, it's going to say Class B over there on the left. So that means I can't use it with this ship yet. So a nice thing too is if you actually select a port on the ship, it'll only show you the kind of things that you can connect typically to it. But sometimes, you know, it'll be a power difference or something, and you could still technically put it, so that was a bad example there. But a good example is going to be for engines. We'll go ahead and pull one off, and we'll go here and say add, and we'll go over to engines, and you'll see it shows the available engines that we can put on there. So yeah, it's just one of those kind of things it takes to get used to, but once you do, if you like this kind of stuff, it's definitely really fun. And a lot of people have really built some awesome creative looking stuff, reimagined ships from different sci-fi things and games and movies, and it's just been really cool. So I definitely give the shipbuilding a real high, I'd say 9 or something like that for sure. I do wish there was some more pieces to it, and when it comes to ship battles, you know, you kind of just, it's the same thing over and over, but hey, there's always room for more of that, and who knows what modders might do. Overall, I'd say I'd probably give Starfield a 7.5. There's a lot to really improve, and there's some things that just felt lacking compared to another Bethesda game. I think it might be the kind of emptiness and so forth, and that's really just trying to give you more space of what to do. So, you know, it just really kind of depends on the person. But one way or another, I hope our little kind of look into Starfield was interesting to you guys, and sound off down in the comment section below. Have you been playing? How do you feel about the game, etc.? And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great one.